because we don't know. You
Yeah.
know? Sometimes it's because we have an idea, and we're kind of marching forward a little slowly and, tossing stuff around. And sometimes we know perfectly well, and that doesn't always lead to success. That can be, for whatever reason, some of the things you think are going to be, because you've thought about them so much or well executed or whatever, are going to be really surprising and interesting, end up not being as interesting. And the other stuff you thought of in 10 minutes, everyone's like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever. So,
well, it's funny, when I was talking to Mark, I asked him what question he's surprised people aren't asking more. And he said he's surprised that people don't ask about the island more. And I remember even just having the whole big meeting before the show even came out, and hearing that that the island is going to go through until the final episode of the series.
Yep.
So for you, what do you think the importance is? What island stories do you want to tell? Anything that you can say, obviously.
Yeah, I think the island stories that are the most, this year is very much about, last year was very much about, I learned stuff on the island that I have to unlearn to be a person again. I had to learn how to survive there, so I could, I had to learn how to be a killer to survive, and I want to unlearn that as a patron of society again. Yeah. And this year is very much about the demons and the ghosts that still haunt him from that time, and the stuff that he lost there, and how there are things that maybe he didn't deal with that are coming home to roost, in very physical ways and very emotional ways. So I think it's really helpful for us when we figure out emotionally what we want to say and do there. But again, that to me, the one thing I would say just that's the most satisfying about that is that's the kind of old adventure serial. Like, it is just, the most satisfying ones it's like that little piece of it is just the Indiana Jones part of the show, where we just paint them into corners and get them out, and paint them into more corners and look for a window. And if there's not a window, we bust a hole in the wall. It's just, how are you going to kind of get, like the old Flash Gordon serials, kind of like how are you going to get the character kind of out of that? So it's that heightened kind of adventure. And those are fun. And so, and I think from the beginning, we kind of always tossed around we always had an idea of what year 1, 2, and 3 would be. But there's obviously, hopefully, a year 4 and 5, because he was there for 5 years. So, but 3 of them we've talked about.
So, and of course, the connection is even stronger now. You're sort of going to get the Canary origin story from the island, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's the fun thing. We're obviously playing with the convention of, what didn't we see back then? There's a couple times this year where we break POV for his flashbacks. You will obviously learn more about, just that scene that you saw last week, where Canary asks about Slade. That implies all sorts of things.
Yep.
And then so they really start speaking to each other in a different way that you hope isn't confusing.
No, and well, the other thing
is, as a storyteller, you hope it's not confusing.
Yeah, no, and I actually love the island sequences just because I like that sort of glimpse into the past, right? Because then you get something out of just the look that Oliver gives, and you're like, I know exactly what that is, which is really cool. I'm curious now, is there any possibility that we might see his dad? Because we thought Sarah died. Just saying.
Not this season.
Okay. That was good.
That was a little bit more specific than I probably am allowed to be, but yes.
I won't tell anyone at all. Okay, so we had a big bad reveal at the end of the episode. So anything you can tease about what's coming with him?
I would just say there's, everyone probably shouldn't expect that they know everything about him. And because again, last year, obviously the reveal of Merlin's relationship with Tommy, there's some of those kind of twists coming, hopefully. And I would say, that's probably the smartest thing to say. You're asking me, that's uncharted territory. So so that's the first time I've had to answer that question.
Okay, well, hey, I like to be first. Okay, exactly. But I think it's really cool. Also, the mask, by the way, was awesome.
Again, a lot of I feel like a quarter of life is spent like, just looking at designs for different masks and things like that, which is, and there's a thin line between goofy and creepy.
Yeah, that was creepy.
Yeah, okay, good. We want to creep people out.
Totally
We
creepy.
don't want it to seem like we're doing Power Rangers.
Yeah, did not look like Power Rangers,
Okay.
I promise. Well, I did want to mention something about the episode, because what I thought was really cool is you guys really pushed the envelope violence-wise.
Yeah,
Especially
they're
in
not
a
all
season.
they're not all, those I mean, and the one prior obviously was dark too,
Yeah.
They're not all like that, but it's part of the reason for having some of those kinds of episodes, is getting back to that central question of, okay, wait a second, I came back into this year to not be a killer.
Yeah.
And yet, what does that mean when I go up against people that are, and it gets darker and darker, and that is, it's not an issue that we're going to easily solve for Oliver, and so hopefully people will like the the places we take that.
Yeah, because I actually thought that was, I like the idea of having a criminal who's that violent, and what do you do with that? Which I think is, it's always with comic books with superheroes, that's always a question. How far do you go before you become the villain?
Right.
Which is, I like that a
That
lot.
is a great central question.
Thank you. I made it up myself. So, anything you can tease about League of Assassins? Because I'm very excited for this. This is the one everyone's been talking about.
That particular episode, definitely more teaming up on the part of Sarah and Ollie, which is great, and Canary and Arrow, probably the best fun tease would be that Sarah will reveal herself to one of her family members.
Ooh.
That's a good tease.
Ooh, that's very good tease. Okay, so let's talk a little bit before we end about Tomorrow People, because
Great.
That's been really cool. And so what do you think how's fan reaction been to that? Because it's a really cool concept.
Yeah, no, it's been, I think we just love making that show, and so...
and you have another Amel.
And we have another Amel, and it's its own thing, It was a show I liked very much as a kid. Julie liked very much as a kid, and it's been really rewarding to see so much of it. The flashbacks working the way that they are, the different characters each kind of bringing it, actors each bringing it. It's a different tone, but there's still action and fun, and we're everybody who works on both shows, is really proud of those 2 hours in the sense of like hopefully how we kind of keep the audience kind of energized and emotional, and so it's been rewarding. I think obviously it's a slower burn out the gate than something like Arrow was. So my hope is that people keep coming to it and discovering it. And that also seems to be the case in terms of like the L3 numbers and all those kind of things that everybody else knows more about than I do. But they call up and tell me, oh, those are really good and this is good. But we definitely, it's neat that I think people are discovering it in a slightly different way and latching on to it, and so it'll be exciting to see where it goes. Again, there's episodes, our Flash introduction episode is episode 8. Our Barry introduction, and that same episode, there's episodes back to back next week, League of Assassins, and our episode of that we do of Tomorrow People go incredibly well together in terms of their level of excitement and danger, and and what characters overcome and the swings that I think we're taking. So I think the other fun thing about that show is just this, that it's that it's this whole other world that you can really only, the secret world you can kind of only get to through the show,
Yeah.
And just seeing that world unfurl, we give a lot more kind of a view into that world next week, and so there's some really exciting episodes coming up.
Cool. So people have time to catch up before this. So this is a good one to.
Oh yeah,
jump in on.
They're all still very. I think you can enter them very easily. There's enough standalone elements about them. And I think hopefully next week, away from the first and last game of the World Series,
Right.
both Arrow and Tomorrow People will grow a little bit, and that'll be nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.